All that Jim and I ever did was do stuff that made us laugh.
Welcome to Shooting Stars, and without any further ado, let's meet our...
What's going on? What are you doing?
Yes, welcome to Shooting Stars.
What they came up with was this format that totally showcased their own very unique humour, but it had quite a rigid structure, so that even when they went off on a real flight of fancy, they could always come back to the quiz.
And my first question in the true or false round goes to Tara.
The guests were there just as sort of little pillars to hold up the show, and for Jim and Bob to beat the hell out of if and when they wanted. And it was hilarious.
After years of delighting and baffling audiences with their unique brand of humour, Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer turned the traditional panel show on its head in 1995, when Shooting Stars hit Britain's TV screens.
It's a bear!
Over 5 series, they combined the surreal with slapstick, witty wordplay and schoolboy silliness. You didn't tune in for the Q&A, but to see Vic and Bob enjoying themselves, and, in their unscripted way, somehow becoming the biggest, most influential double act of the 1990s. The story of Shooting Stars begins in late 1986. Bob Mortimer, on the outside a perfectly normal solicitor from Middlesbrough, is taken to Goldsmith's Tavern in south-east London to see The Big Night Out, a Sunday variety show hosted by Darlington's Vic Reeves. Real name, Jim Moyer.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, please, Shooting Stars!
The first time I saw or met Jim was a big night out in a room above a pub, and I went there with a sort of mutual friend from Middlesbrough and enjoyed the show very much.
Zara, film producer David Lean is responsible for the Findus range lean cuisine.
You know, maybe it's because we were from the same region or whatever, but we both had the same sense of humour and we just got on like a house on fire. We were immediately best friends, I think.
And we're going to pass for Captain Birdseye! What the dickens have you done with all those little children?
Jim would do a lot of characters on the live show, and at the beginning, anyone who was knocking around could come on and do something whilst Jim got changed.
In sharp contrast to the anti-Thatcher political agenda dominating stand-up comedy at the time, Big Night Out was a bizarre mixture of Spike Milligan-esque surrealism and Eric and Ernie-style light entertainment.
It's always slightly mystified me that Vic and Bob were seen as this impenetrable, weird, surrealist act. And I think that was mainly a perception of Southerners. Northerners always accepted them as just a couple of funny guys.
Right. I've seen it recently, not just on video, not on camera. I've actually seen policemen in their toques just squirting acid rain onto whales.
In tandem with The Big Night Out, I was doing DJing at a club called Swag, which was run by Adam Ross, who was Jonathan's brother. So Jonathan used to come down there, and I was kind of doing bits of The Big Night Out in there. And
Jonathan thought I was your boyfriend, didn't he?
Did he?
Mm.
Well, you were, weren't you?
Well, it was for briefly, yeah.
But he used to come down. I mean, there's lots of people who came down and word of mouth got out.
Before we go any further, let's meet our Britain's top light entertainment, Mr. Vic Reeves, ladies and gentlemen.
Word around South London reached Jules Holland, who also became a fan. It led to Jim asking celebrities ridiculous questions for the first time on national television.
Here's a question anyway. Right. Rod Stewart, the soccer-mad Nosy Parker of pop, has been married to an astonishing 370,000 women. Jimmy, can you name them?
I remember seeing him do a thing on the Tube, I think it was. A very odd kind of daft game show thing he did. And I remember seeing that thinking, actually, no, it is quite funny, this. And I eventually went down to see them do what was the last ever Big Night Out in Goldsmith's Tavern, when they were doing it just in a pub. And I remember kicking myself thinking, why didn't I go and see him before? Because he'd been doing it for a while by then. It was just the funniest thing I had ever seen.
By 1988, Jim's live show was so popular it moved to a bigger venue, the Albany Empire in Deptford. Devoted fans, including Paul Whitehouse and Charlie Higson, were able to come on and do a turn.
They used to do a different 2-hour show every week, so they needed a lot of other people to come in and do bits and pieces. And you'd turn up and he'd say, this is your costume, you've got to do this. You're a novelty act, a man with 20-foot-long trousers or something.
With a cast of future comedy hotshots like Mortimer, Higson and Whitehouse, Vic Reeves' Big Night Out had become an underground phenomenon. And it attracted the attention of Alan Mark, producer for the independent TV company Channel X, whose frontman Jonathan Ross was another Vic Reeves fan.
We made the pilgrimage down to Deptford to see Big Night Out, which is this kind of crazy show. Went on for hours. And he came out and did 3 Rod Stewart songs, dressed in a suit made of horse brasses. And we liked it so much we thought, you know, let's try and do something with this, you know, see if we could get it onto TV.
Alan and Jonathan Ross helped give Jim and Bob exposure as TV performers, providing regular cameos on Jonathan's chat shows. Big Night Out's big breakthrough came in 1990, when Seamus Cassidy at Channel 4 commissioned a series with Jonathan and Alan producing. But Jim and Bob were happy doing the live show, so those Channel 4 commissioners were just a little taken aback by the way the news was greeted.
We went into Seamus Cassidy's office with Alan Mark took us in there, and it was a case of would you like to do a show on Channel 4? And I said, how much do we get for it? Which wasn't really the thing that you're supposed to ask, I don't think.
Not since Spike Milligan's Q series had TV screened such a willfully odd show. Yet it was also strangely traditional, as Jim and Bob combined music, variety acts and physical comedy with what could only be described as performance art. Charlie Higson and Paul Whitehouse were around to help out, accompanied by some singing donuts.
Mr. Popkins, we love you. Mr. Popkins, don't go away.
Big Night Out attracted a fanatical student fan base, and after Series 1, the show went on the road, turning Jim into an unlikely pop star.
Well, I'm driving down the highway at the speed of light.
We went off and did a university tour, which was, I think we did about 16 dates, and it was like being in a band. You had Ben Eltons and people like that who were doing politics, but no one was doing music, so I ended up on the front of the NME. Then I did Born Free and ended up on Top of the Pops, and that got to number 3, so that sort of increased the pop fans. Then I think there was another series of Big Night Out, and then Dizzy, and Dizzy got to number 1 when we were at the Colston Hall in Bristol, and it just went berserk, and there was like, you know, we had girls and young boys screaming outside, and barriers with people, you know, holding them back as they tried to tear our garments.
But Reeves Mania and a cult TV hit weren't nearly enough for Jim and Bob, who now felt ready to try and come up with a new comedy vehicle. In 1992, they made Weekenders, a sitcom pilot co-starring future Fast Show regulars Simon Day and Paul Whitehouse. Channel 4 turned it down, but the boys just wouldn't let it lie.
I know we haven't got a doorbell, but you could have knocked, couldn't you? No, I couldn't.
We wanted to do a different show after the Big Night Out, but Channel 4 wanted another Big Night Out, and so the BBC said we could do what we would like to do, and that was The Smell of Reeves and Mortimer.
The Smell lingered on BBC Two between 1993 and 1995. It marked a further development in what Jim did best, mucking about behind a desk. And now Bob joined him there to help subvert and dismantle the elements of the standard light entertainment programme.
Yes. Oh, you didn't forget to book the acts tonight, did you?
No, I've got it here.
What?
When they moved to BBC Two, they actually wanted to do something way more ambitious and much more akin to the kind of Python way of doing sketches out and about and then studio stuff. And even a nod to Two Ronnies with a lot of the singing and dancing.
Like a shrimp in a suitcase laying on a window ledge, like a pair of top slippers and they're under